Yeah. Welcome everyone to the naked community. I'll explain what that means. I'm glad to see that nobody took that literally and you all have your clothes on. This is the naked community was inspired by the word. First of all, I just love the word naked. But it was inspired by what I've seen over and over again in my life, that my health, my happiness, my human potential got greater and greater the more that I took off the masks and armor of the world, that the world told me I had to wear to be okay. And the tagline of the community is closing the gap between who you truly are and who the world taught you to be for your greatest level of health, happiness, and human potential. So these calls go on, well, they're supposed to go on. The idea was they were going to be every other week. But this is our 9th call, and it started during this whole COVID thing. And I just said, you know what, for the time being, we're going to do them once a week, but every other week, I'll have a guest on so people don't have to look at my mug. So as much as possible, I'm having guests every other week and doing it in kind of podcast format where I'd love to hear from somebody new. And it's kind of like one of those things where 1,000 keys open the same door. So whether we're talking about health or death or quantum physics or our pets or, all those, whatever the topic, it all points in the direction of closing the gap. And where the gap came from, that's a metaphor I use. And that was inspired by this French animated cartoon I once saw called Skizine. It's like a 12 or 13 minute thing. And real quick, the cartoon is this meteor lands outside of this guy's window. He gets knocked out and he wakes up 91 centimeters beside himself. So he's split. And throughout the cartoon, you see how he tries to navigate. Here's his body, his physical body, who the world told him he ought to be. And here's his soul, his true self. And trying to navigate through the world 91 centimeters outside of himself. So in order to open the door to go outside, he has all these measurements all over his apartment. And when he goes to work, he has to type 91 centimeters next to his computer in order to do his work. And it's just cooking and brushing his teeth. And it's just like, it's exhausting to watch him. And I had this huge insight when I saw that cartoon. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what we all do. That's what we all do. We go through our lives exhausting ourselves trying to be someone we're not because we were told that's what we ought to be. So the naked community is all about exploring closing the gap. And I asked Dominic on, first of all, I'll give the impressive third person introduction. Dominic, I'm just going to read it off of your website. If that's okay. Dominic coaches leaders and executives in a variety of organizations as they take on new roles, greater responsibility, key projects, challenging issues, and sometimes career change. He helps leaders and managers to engage the full potential of their people to achieve unprecedented results and performance. His approach is to work with people through intentional conversations that cause them to access fresh thinking, strategies, and actions in the areas that are most important to them. So that's the public bio. The Karen version, which is lovely, Dominic, but the Karen version is my icing on that is, huh? What just happened? When I met Dominic, we were going through Super Coach Academy. Can you guys hear the guinea pigs in the background? They're screaming. I met Dominic in Super Coach Academy in 2016, and the best way I know how to describe him is this lightness of being. There's a playfulness and curiosity that no matter what his impressive third person bio says, he's like a little kid. He has a energy of a playful little kid, and his curiosity, and he's funny. And to me, that only can come with the humility and awe of knowing who you truly are. That, he goes through life like he's got nothing on it. And I was listening to the reason I asked him on today, and we've been talking kind of back and forthing for a little while again. I heard him doing a podcast with Phil Goddard. And as I heard Dominic telling his story, I'm like, oh, gap closing, gap closing moment. So Dominic, I'm going to turn it over to you. And I'd love for you to just start with, who you are. And now that you know what I mean by closing the gap, there's various getting in touch with your inner being or your true self or the God within or your I am, every religion, culture, and person throughout history has had a different word for the same thing. So I'd love to know some of those big moments in your life and what you've seen and how that manifests in how you live your life now and the work that you do.
Right. Well, thanks. I really liked that second intro. I'm glad there's a recording because I might write it all down. That
it could be my testimonial.
Yeah. And it's interesting because when you said it, then it's no accident that you and I connected and kind of have remained, connected over so much time. Those of you that know Karen is, when I first met her, it was her sense of humor, her ability to take out of life and find the humor no matter what. If you are not friends with Karen, you need to friend her on Facebook. Go read anything she's written, her posts. You will not be able to go through it without like snorting out loud in laughter. In Super Coach Academy, we'd be in these classes, and every time she stood up, I would grip my seat because I knew I was about to lose it. No matter what, she would just start talking about something, and then pretty soon the humor in it and all of that stuff would come out. So
thanks, Dominic. That's like the first time I've gotten introduced someone and gotten a reintroduction.
Well, it was just as you described that from your perspective, I could see kind of how we're connected and why we've remained connected, right? There's a lot of people that we meet, but we sort of go in our own different ways. But it's interesting to note that for some reason we've remained connected, and we have continued to relate with each other.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let me see. For me, the part in this conversation for me is about as we come to realize who we are. It's interesting because I don't. In Super Coach Academy and I'm looking around at who's here, and I think that many people have kind of come into this through the Three Principles community, maybe some other kinds of groups like that. So where you're people who have kind of explored and wondered about who are we and what else is there to life, and what's our purpose and all that. So although that part is interesting to me, I think that the part that is important is that I want to sort of get that to some degree, but I'm very interested in the moving forward from there into this world and into creation. And the Phil Goddard podcast, which Karen's referring to, that he's a coach and he talked about coaching. But in that one, I was really very much about how we create and how we are creating with our mind and through thought and like that. And that's the part that interests me the most. And it's kind of like what I mostly want to talk about is how we do that and how we are here to really be able to enjoy our life. I say, and by the way, somewhere along here, you're going to hear some quote from Abraham Hicks, because the teachings of Abraham Hicks are very much in my grounding. And the one quote that I often, that Abraham speaks about is the purpose of life is joy. And so it's why we're here in form is for the joy of it. So yeah, I don't know, I'll pause there and.
Well, that's fun because it's like I was, and we grow up like the opposite, you and I were speaking yesterday, and it's like I had this image of um, a snake, a venomous snake getting milked for its venom. You know, they put the fangs on the thing, and it's like we're taught that it's like the more you, it's like we're filling up God's cup if the more we suffer. You know, like we're here to suffer and put other people first, and you know that kind of thing to fill up jars. But it's actually what I've seen and what you actually deepen my awareness of whenever we speak or hang out is it's actually the opposite that's true. And
Hmm.
did you have a moment in your life where you thought something and then there was a turning point where, oh my gosh, that it isn't true, it is the opposite?
Well, the thing that um, you're pointing to there, which is we can always tell where we're at because of feeling, like the feeling of when you're in a place of, I'm going to call it negative feeling. I'm just going to label it as negative feeling, but they're those kinds of feelings where you are either depressed or it's hopeless or not just not with a lot feeling like a lot of empowerment or like you have a lot of control compared to other feelings where, and I'll call them very high level feelings, high vibration feelings,
Mm-hmm.
which I say joy, equivalent might be love, appreciation, a sense of clarity, a sense of power. So that
Mm-hmm.
kind of feeling. So there's something about these two ends, and I'm just going to do a polarity for now. Then there's a whole range in between, but there's something about these two ends, which is the question being: so who are you really? Right? So who are you really? And there's something about this level of feeling that I'm going to call harmonious or resonant or smooth, which is when we get into a feeling or a sense that is those kinds of feelings that are love, peace, joy, clarity. So where the word harmonious or resonant feelings, let's call them smooth feelings,
Mm-hmm.
they are an energy that is resonating with who you really are, actually, right? So when you have that in that feeling, you are in that moment being in the world, engaging in the world in a way that is more fully who you really are. And then in those feelings of despair and hopelessness, that sort of dissonance, disharmony, the roughness to it, the reason you're able to feel it is because in that moment, the way you're showing up in the world or the way you see who you are in the world is so far off who you really are that you can feel it right away.
Mm-hmm.
So the feeling is telling you in that moment of hopelessness or disempowerment or doubt, I don't think I can do this, or wherever you've gone with that, is in that moment it is you are so off of who you really are, and the feeling of that um, is information. It's just information telling you've sort of gone off track, you've forgotten who you are, all of that.
Yeah, wouldn't it be great if it was, I mean, wouldn't it be great if it was really that simple?
Yeah.
I would, but it is, you know, that's the gap. That's the living outside of ourselves. That dissonance, resonance comes when you're more in line. Dissonance comes when you're out of line. This feels really good. This feels like a whole bunch of effort and fear and whatever. So what if it was really that simple, just to, oh, I'm off course, I'm far away from living 91 centimeters outside of myself. What do you do? Can you share
Hmm.
some things in your life, some stories, some anecdotes where you
Yeah.
really saw this for yourself, the feeling, and then what was the result? What happened, when you did get more in line with yourself? How did that turn up? You know, what
Yeah.
happened? What happened
Yeah.
next?
Well, I mean, so it happens over and over, right? It's kind
Right.
of over and
All
over
the
in
time.
life.
Hmm.
And that's not like a problem. The way I would describe that, it's not like a problem. And by the way, it's a bit of a trap to think you'll ever get out of it. So I think
Right.
that's even a trap, right? It's sort of like, okay, I got to get this figured out once and for all so that I can kind of get out of it. You won't get out of it, and you can't get out of it. It sounds like this, hopeless thing, but the reason it can't be is because you keep becoming more. So through the living of life, who you are is so much more than you think. And in this moment, what you are expressing, who you're being right now in this moment, is infinitesimal in comparison to all that you are. So you will always have more that can be expressed. So this feeling guidance thing is going to happen forever. If I think about me, like coaching is one of those things that was, if I look really, I'm, 56 today, not today,
Today? Oh,
no, not today, right? But so I look at coaching, and I could probably see from my teen years evidence of, friends that I'd have conversation with, and, they'd think it was great or whatever, like, so there's this, you kind of notice aspects of you that would be around forever. And then when I look at, I became a coach, like this as an occupation, where I'm, self-employed now for 12 years or whatever as a coach. But that's like a lot of years from, something, there's a hint of something to sort of doing that. And all in between there, this is for me, coaching, when I became, I remember I did a certification, so that when I decided I'd be a coach, I wanted to do training so that I'd be, certified as a coach, right?
mm-hmm.
And in that, when the class ended and they kind of, said, yes, you've now got this, right? I remember there was this kind of closing circle, and it was so emotional for me, because what I saw in that moment is that it's like what I am right now, I always was, except I didn't believe it, or I had a whole bunch of, I'll just say, thinking that was always in the way. And the thinking kind of goes to what you were asking about, is how come we live in the world more like, what everybody's told us or how we should be. So it's going to be all unique to us. For me, it was kind of like, the way I'd say it is, when something is too easy, and that's what that felt like to me, it doesn't seem legitimate. It's like people would say, oh, you're really good. I love talking to you. I really get a lot of value out of it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm kind of like, in that was a little bit like, yeah, I get that, and so what? But what do you do for a living, right? Like, what am I supposed to do for a living? It's almost like someone who plays the guitar, or who can paint, or maybe enjoys writing. And then they love to do that, but it's kind of like not legitimate. And so then they are spending their life to try to do something more legitimate. And so, because whatever is easy and enjoyable, it's kind of not right. Like, that can't be. And I think that there's something we do that, even with kids and stuff, it was interesting. I was, on one of my Facebook posts, I had put an Abraham quote that says, "The purpose of life is joy, and life is supposed to be fun. Life is supposed to be fun, The purpose of life is joy. Now, and someone goes, don't tell me what the purpose of life is supposed to be, and it's supposed to be fun. And I realized at first I was like, oh, what perspective? But then what I realized is, that's the hardest part of the teachings of Abraham that I've had some trouble with, because I kind of thought, is it really, or is that just like they're nice? They're like trying to paint this positive picture. Mm-hmm. And I thought of children. If you think of, babies becoming kids, the whole bit, and you think about the one consistent thing that we do to them is to say, okay, enough with the fun and games. Life is not just fun and games. At some point, you're going to need to grow up. At some point, you're going to have to learn to take things seriously. Don't think you can do this all your life, right? It's kind of interesting how the intuition of a child or children is there's an ease to it. This is all I'm supposed to do. Get up in the morning and play. And we have to kind of knock that out of them, right? And so I realized that for me, when I look at my vocation today, that biggest challenge for me was about becoming comfortable with how easy and effortless this is, that I could like earn a living, do very well, and it's not work. Like it's kind of like, it shouldn't be that way. It should take hard work, right? And so I even look at my whole career was created as a result of legitimizing. I have a 20-year corporate career. I was an executive in human research, and to some degree, it's sort of like legitimizes.
Right. So you have to talk about the part of your life where there was a lot of effort to legitimize this part of your life that's effortless.
Yeah.
Can you share? I hope it's okay that you repeat this. Hopefully, you're not bored of telling the story. But I love the specificity of the story that I've heard you share, where you started playing with this idea of going with inspiration and with the effortlessness, kind of like as a way to prove it to yourself that this works. Yeah. And you started writing down.
Yeah.
You kept like a journal.
Yeah. So for me, once I became a coach too, I had, so you got to figure out how to build that business, right? So how do you build that business? You're going to need clients. And by the way, I was this executive. I was a vice president of human resources. It was a 20-year corporate career. That's sort of the level I was at, and company car and stock options, all that stuff. And all of a sudden, here I am self-employed. Well, self-employed means zero income. So you go from this to this. And so, okay, so now what, right? So I gotta build this business. You need clients. You gotta, so.
Wait, pause there. Stick a pin in that. Can I ask the question, why? How did that happen? How did you go from that level to self-employed? Was that by choice, or were you kicked out of the nest, or?
Yeah, so no way by choice, right? Like that would have been such a very hard thing to do. So in the last corporate role I held, there was a large restructure, and eventually my role was impacted. So I was restructured out. And but the thing is, now that I look, especially with the context of the teachings of Abraham, part of what I see in that is how perfect things are, right? So as I got into that role, I remember this feeling, and this is sort of, it was like an achievement of a culmination of a career, right? It's like, I did it, right? I hit this level, this is, right? And it was only a few months in to that, that I had this other thought, and I remember this as this other thought came. I remember kind of like shooing it away to quiet it down. it was, this thought came like, so is this it? Is this the end of it? Because what occurred to me was, a part of what I saw was, this is as high as you get. It was, one of the largest organizations in Canada, and so for HR or whatever. But it was like, that's as high as you get. And then the other thing is the way it works in terms of compensation, stock options, different things. It's handcuffed. So you're handcuffed, like literally you'd be an idiot to leave. It would be very difficult to get out, because everything's kind of vests eventually and all of that. And I remember, so I'm only a few months in, and all of a sudden, so I go from this ecstatic, I've achieved something, to this little voice thing came like, so this is it? It was, and I'm like, oh, quiet. I don't know what that was, but quiet, whatever that was, ridiculous. And it was this feeling like, so is this it? And then I kind of retire, like I just kind of like stay here and keep going, and then I'm going to retire. So there was some niggling thing going on, but I refused to look at it. Like I didn't want to entertain it. I wouldn't even talk to, I remember, like I wouldn't even talk to my wife about it, wouldn't talk to anybody about it, because it was like, you shouldn't think like this. It was like, you shouldn't think like this. So I wouldn't entertain it, didn't want to explore it. But so to fast forward, it's interesting in Abraham, it sort of says that your inner being and who you really are knows what you want, knows all that you desire, and is leading you by the path of least resistance toward it, right? So today when I look and I kind of go, oh, how interesting that I was restructured out. Because path of least resistance would be, I don't think I could have done it, right? Like I don't think I could have done it, right? So well, at least at that time I couldn't. Just when I see, right? So path of least resistance, when something happens in your life that you think is so bad, there's a context to look at it from, that if you're curious enough, and forget trying to do this in the moment, because you're not going to be able to do it in the moment. It's just bad. It looks bad in the moment. But over a little bit broader perspective, you may start to see how that was essential. It's like essential to something far better happening. With enough of that, you also understand another Abraham quote, which is, things are always working out for you. Things are always working out for you. And so even when it doesn't look like it, if you understand that things are always working out for you, and just be curious for, how is this working out? As I'll tell you, in the first few days that happened, the question, how is this working out, was not a question that I would have an answer for. Sorry, I went there because you asked the question, but then I'll bounce forward into this self-employed thing and all of that. So, because that's an example of, you were talking about how I was built, how would I build this business? I was working with a coach at the time, because when I first came out of the corporate world, the only clarity I had was that first I decided to take the summer off, right? Like, because instead of like getting into a job search and everything, I thought, okay, I'm going to take the summer off and just kind of like think for a minute and then see what I want to do. But by the time September came around, the only clarity that I had was, I think, and this was really weird, this voice that was, or clarity that said, I think I'm finished with this job thing. And so that's all that was clear, is like, I think I'm done with this job thing. which is really, the next thing I thought was like, well, that's not helpful. Like I thought like I should be thinking about like, where will I go next or how will I network? But I was just like, I think I'm done with this job thing. And so then there was a bit of, I called myself a consultant. So I started doing HR consulting, right? But very shortly, coaching became clear. And then when I got my coaching certification and I was working with my coach, and I said, so I want to now be a coach. And she said to me, okay, so how will you transition in your business to coaching? And at first I was very traditional. I thought, well, I'm gonna network and talk to people. I'll have conversations with them. She said, great. So between now and our next call, how many of these conversations are you going to have? And I said, 10. I'm going to talk to 10 people. And then, and so I think I got to 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And by the third one, I'm like, I'm not doing this. Right? It was like, I'm not doing this. And so because it was like, I didn't feel like this idea of sales and selling something. It felt like, today I'll say, I can describe differently, like it felt like an effort to do.
Yeah.
Didn't feel good, right? Now I didn't have all this honed at the time. Today I have different language for it, but it didn't feel good. So I get on the next call with her. So 2 weeks later, she says, so how'd it go? I said, oh, it was really good. Oh, so how many people did you talk to? I said, well, I talked to 2 people or 3 or whatever. And I also realized that I'm not going to do that. She said, pardon me? I said, yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do these kinds of conversations or reach out to people and see if they're interested in this. And she was like, okay. So how will you build this coaching business? And what came out of my mouth was, I said, how will you get your clients? That was her question. How will you get your clients? And what came out of my mouth was, I'm going to attract them. And when I heard myself say it, I thought, well, that's dumb, right? But I heard myself say, well, I'm going to attract them, right? And what it was, I started to realize that the whole kind of consulting and the way I was getting business it was somehow showing up. It was, I get an email or someone would reach out to me and I would get business from it. But what I saw was I wasn't trusting it. Like, in other words, this was operating in a certain way, but I didn't trust it. It just seemed random. It seemed like you can't build business like this. But what I noticed is that as I was enjoying myself, and I don't even mean working. This is the weird thing, right? Even if I would be like sitting on my deck reading or doing stuff, because at the time it was early in the business, so I didn't have like a ton of clients to be busy all the time, but I was like relaxed and enjoying. But then things would happen. Now I was feeling guilty because I thought I should be working, but somehow I was also quite relaxed and enjoying myself, which then stuff would show up. And it all seemed coincidence to me, except as I got into reading more and listening more, teachings of Abraham, what I was learning was that there is a resonance in energy that matches up with more like it. And so, but my corporate mind was also saying, well, this is crazy. You can't be building a business just by sitting around feeling good. Right? So I thought, hang on a second. I know, I sense that this is reliable, but but I can't prove it really. And so I had this idea all of a sudden hit me around, I'm going to start an attraction journal. And that's that. So this attraction journal happened because what I noticed was that I was meeting people, that I would get like an email from someone, or someone would reach out from my past who would say, hey, I notice you're no longer there. What are you doing now? Because they had something, you know, some piece of work or something that they wanted me to do. So I was noticing these things were happening, call them synchronicities, but they didn't seem reliable. So I began this attraction journal, which was
So
really simple.
you're collecting data on
Yeah,
your hunch.
there you go. It was Evernote, which is just an electronic way of quickly being able. So I would have just one line. So every time something would happen, I would write in, you know, it's like September 23rd, email from so-and-so at this company, inquiring about, you know, some training thing they want me to do. And then, you know, September 29th, someone reached out on LinkedIn to ask about if I would, whatever. So I would just write this. These were all sort of attraction things, not something that I went after, but something that happened that just seemed a fluke. It came out of nowhere. Well, then this attraction journal, which today I have today, it's 10 or 11 years of data now.
Wow.
So what happened, I'm such a geek, right? So as these things would happen, which I would then take monthly totals, and I would total by month, total by quarter, total by year, right? So that this attraction that was happening, and I can tell you, you know, I was getting between, you know, like 12 to 20 different things flowing in, which totaled anywhere from 140 to 180 per year. And some of those would result in business. And so once I did that attraction journal, what it did for me was it turned something that was fluky and unreliable into, all of a sudden, wow, this is really reliable. Like I have data. So this is completely reliable. Like this actually works, right? It works, it happens, here's the numbers, right? And it keeps going. And so that was very helpful for me in terms of building a certainty and a confidence.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, first of all, that there's like such a normal looking person. You know, like when you picture people who kind of study the stuff that you and I are geeky about, you know, it's like you picture, you know, maybe people wearing beads or long robes, or, you know, maybe their heads are shaved, or, you know, they've got, you know, piercing, you know, I don't know, you know, make up your own stereotype and prejudice against people who would be into that. And I love how part of what I think my role is too, is like making that stuff that works, that actually now I know is scientifically based, because you know what a geek I am. I'm like, okay, yeah, prove it. Well, oh my gosh, you can actually prove it with quantum physics, you know, like you, that which likens to itself is drawn, and feeling and expectation can change outcomes of research studies. And that's why you can find, when you look up research, you can find, just take, okay, I'll take something very provocative, take the vaccination debate. You can find as much research that supports it as research against it, and good research. You know, some of it's like biased and whatever, but to me, whether it's about that or, you know, so many different things, it's it really is affected by the expectations of the people doing the research. So I squirreled off a bit coming back, and then you look at somebody like you who's got this code, you know, you're a businessman, you've got your own business, it's very successful, and you're actually collecting data that proves that it's, the world says you ought to network, make a client avatar, leave yourself in order to fulfill their expectations. despite the efforting, feeling the hard work, feeling whatever, and you're collecting data that says, wait, no, 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 no. It should feel good. It should feel effortless. And here's the proof that not only does that work, but it works so, so much better. And you're not exhausted. You actually, when you go through your day like that, whether it's in business or relationship or whatever, you have more energy at the end of the day. Do you find that you have more
Right.
energy at the end of the day than you would the other way?
So what's happening there is that this stuff, we say it a lot, we throw it around a lot. Again, I'm like you, I'm a bit geeky about it in terms of understanding, like, why is that? Abraham says, nothing is more important than that you feel good. Nothing is more important than that you feel good. Again, what kind of a statement is that? Nothing is more important than that you feel good. That is because that feeling good is resonant with all that you are. And so imagine, as you are resonant with all that you are, which is greater than the physical you and the, who you think you are right now, right? So as you're resonant with this bigger totality of all that you are, imagine how much more intelligence and power you have. In fact, what you are resonating with is an energy that creates worlds. When you are more connected to all that you are, that is not distinct from the energy that creates worlds, the energy that creates planets and universe and all of that stuff. So if you think about that kind of power that you could tap into in creating your own life. By the way, it occurred to me as like, so I want, a coaching business with some clients, and, there's a certain kind of thing. And you sort of think, so would that intelligence, the same intelligence that has created all that is, have some sense of how to build a coaching business? So resonating or aligning to that is really all of the answers and everything that you want. To the point about the feeling tired, the reason we're tired is because we are using action to create. So what that means is we use our physical us to take action to create something. So we believe that I am here and I want to be there, and I need to take a bunch of action and put things together and I can be there. But when you do that, then you are operating at the level of this little you. So you're operating at this level of this physical you that is finite, and you are using that physical you to do work and action, make phone calls, talk to people, do all kinds of things, and then to try to build something. But, Dick and Bettinger, actually in our Super Coach Academy, he was on one of the calls, and one of the things that he said that I've never forgotten is that which is created cannot create. So he said, that which is created cannot create. If I look at me as a creation, which is this physical me is a creation, so that this that is created cannot create. And so that sort of makes you wonder, it's like, okay, so there is something else that is creating that I can align with. And that when I do that, when I align with what is actually creating, right, we become one. That's an alignment, it's one at that point. As long as I am separated and see myself as having to do work and do all this stuff, then I am using what has been created, this that has been thought up, this, right? And I am using this to try to change things in creation. When you do that, the reason for the tired is you are consuming your own energy. So you are attempting to create something by consuming your own energy. Abraham says about this is when you use action to create, the best you can do is move around that which has already been created. If you use action to create, the best you can do is to move around that which has already been created. You did not come here to create through action. You came to create with your mind. You did not come to create through action. You came to create with your mind, using thought. You came to imagine what you wanted created. And that, when you do that, is aligning with an energy. You are at that point tapping into an energy that is way beyond what's here in this physical body. And why are you not tired in that creation? Is because you are not in that creating, consuming your energy. You are tuning into the energy that creates worlds, and you are flowing, tuning into an energy which is limitless. So this is why when you get into that kind of flow in working and in doing anything, that one, you lose track of time, two, you could be working for hours and never realize, and not actually getting tired or feeling. It's because you are not consuming your own energy at that point. Mm-hmm. You are flowing energy at that point. And so that's that feeling again. But you can tell by the feeling whether there's an effort there, which is, oh, here's me now trying to make this thing happen, versus here's me aligning with what is wanting to be created, what is wanting to happen.
Yeah, I just saw, can I share an example of this that we spoke about just yesterday? I want to share this, so, and then open it up to everybody else. So is that okay if we ask, people ask you questions to clarify? And so yesterday, Dominic and I were speaking, and I was telling him about this niggling, right? That I was having about, I do this course called Weightless, taking the weight of your body off your mind. And I'm working with somebody who's helping me organize myself because I'm very disorganized people. I'm up against all these learning curves, Facebook event pages and all this stuff like that. And he's like, you got to pick a date to do it, because I have had some people wanting, when's the next one going to be? And it just seemed like it was low hanging fruit. Like, there's people who are inquiring about it. You've already done it before. Just pick a date. But there was a feeling. It was a dissonance and this has been going on since February. I was planning on doing it. I pushed out the date again. I pushed out the date again. So then I'm like, okay, I picked a date and I'm going to have a webinar about it. And the whole time, this dissonance. And I'm like, why? I'm like, okay. I told Paul, I'm like, okay, I'll put up the event page and I'll do a webinar, and nobody's signing up. And usually people just, like, it's a free webinar about weight loss and stuff like that, but no. And then I'm like, because I'm repelling, like, or I am not in sync with this. And I knew the whole time now, as I was, after speaking to you yesterday, I've been editing videos from previous programs I do and editing them. And I'm like, and having a ball. I'm the kind of person, I'm delighted at my own shit. Like, if I write something and I know that it didn't come from me, it came from alignment, because I will sit there behind a closed door and giggle at my own stuff and read it over and over, because it didn't come from me. I never, one of my blogs recently, I wrote the word soul boner, like, where did that come from? I never thought of that before. And it just came out, you know, and it wasn't in my head or in my memory, but just as an expression of awe and delight. I mean, perfect. But that kind of thing. So I'm editing these videos, Dominic. Last night, I'm like, that's it. Like, I am loving the editing of these things and the creating the videos and the content. Right now, it's a self-study. Why don't I take this and package it? And how fun would that be? And sell it for cheap. And just, you know, that's what it is right now. Maybe in the future I do, but it's like,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
but there was
Wow.
such an energy because doing the live course that I was planning on do felt like pushing a boulder uphill. It was effort. I was exhausted from the marketing and even the thinking about marketing it. And this thing last night, it hit me. Oh wait, this delights me. This feels good. This is fun. You know, so that's kind
Love
of,
that.
I saw it this
Yeah,
morning. It's
love
like, it
that
was so
example.
obvious. It was so
Yeah.
obvious this
Yeah.
morning what to do next by following that feeling.
Yeah. And so much to trust in that, which is to know that what you really desire and what's aligned with you is known, and you are being led, guided by the path of least resistance to what's desired. So what happens, that path of least resistance is all in the feeling. So as something felt hard, it's a little bit like, hey, it's your hand is going close to a hot stove. Don't do that. Don't do that. And so but because you pay attention and you're like, I don't know, and I don't really feel like doing that, and I don't feel like writing the page or whatever it is, and so you sort of like keep backing away from it because it just doesn't feel like putting the effort into it. And then you did this other thing, which like that was just the easiest thing in the world, and it just started to flow, and like a new inspiration comes from, wow, why not offer that program? How easy is that? And that's just done. And for now, that's all there is, and it's good.
Yeah, and I love, and where you pointed out using our physical being, I'm still using my physical being
Yes.
to edit the videos and watch the videos and whatever, as I would if I was sitting in front and doing a live thing, still using my meat suit, but one is in alignment and is connected to the thing that creates the universes and makes me giddy,
Yes.
and the other
Yeah.
thing is not.
Right. So really important thing you said, because some people misunderstand that when I said about the action, right? Yeah, in your example, if we just use your example, Karen's still in action, right? It's not like in the example in alignment, Karen's not in bed sleeping. Karen's in action. She's editing videos. So in a way, it confuses people because they say, well, I thought you told us we don't create with action. I thought you said it's not action, right? But there is a difference. See, the way Abraham would say this is, you came to create with your mind, and that action would be to enjoy that which you've created with your mind. So you want to be in action. You want to be involved in the creation, and you will be involved in the creation. But the part about it is that your involvement in the creation, it's like what is being created is being expressed through you. It's like you get used in doing something. You get put in front of that computer to edit those videos, and you are so in flow and you love it. I've sometimes I've used this metaphor of saying, imagine if you would just imagine $10 million, and then tomorrow I wake up, oh my God, there's $10 million in my account, actually worth 10 million. Isn't that's so cool, right? There's a car I want. Tomorrow I wake up, car's in the driveway. This is so cool. I want a bigger house. Tomorrow I wake up, the house is bigger. How long before life just isn't worth living? Like, that might sound good, but seriously, how long before life isn't worth living? Like, just the minute I think of something, it then shows up. It's like, really?
Yeah,
It
it's
sounds
like,
cool.
well, it's like we don't go to a movie. I say this all the time. You don't go to a movie for 90, you don't watch a 90-minute movie to watch people get everything they want and be happy for the whole time. Like, you'd walk out after 10 minutes. It was just like, you need the contrast. That's why the Marvel comics, or was it DC with Superman, kind of faded out, because once it got to a point where nothing could kill him, it's just like, I don't want to see it anymore. At least,
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah.
you do not, you're not here for the completion of anything. You are an eternal being, infinite expression. There is no completion of anything. So there's not, that isn't the point of it. And so all of the joy is in the process of it. So it is in imagining, I want more money, and then in the expression and the journey toward it, all of the satisfaction is in that. In the end point of actually getting it is so little of your life is spent there. If you think about how little of your life happens in the, I got it, I got the new house, so it's in the, we had it, it was a dream, we came up with the design, we hired some people, we did this. So you want to be involved in the creation of what you want. You want to be used in there. You don't, and this is the part where one of the things I'll say is, it's a universe of ask and it is given. Ask and it is given. But the part I'll say is, nothing is actually given to you. So nothing is given to you from outside of you. What you want is never given to you, asserted into your experience. The universe gives you what you want expressed through you. So you get what you want expressed through you. And it is in expressing it through you that you experience what you want. So, yeah.
That is different. You don't get it by going,
yeah.
All right, we have a couple questions. First, Sue, and then Antra posted something in the comments. If there's anyone else who wants to ask a question, raise your hand, because I'm not always checking the comments and I might miss something. You could put comments in there, but not questions. If you want to ask Dominic a question, there's you raise your little digital hand by, how do you do it, everybody? I think you hover over
participants if you want, and then I think you could do it, or even your name.
Thank you for telling me. Yeah, raise.
It's in different places on different devices, but yeah, it's easy to find.
Under participants, you go to more.
And then by your name, you can put your hand up, or it'll say on the bottom, raise hand when it opens.
All right, or do this and wave wildly. I'll see that. Okay, Sue.
On mine, it's just under more. It says raise hand. Hi, Dominic. Thank you.
Hi, how are you, Sue?
I am really good and happy to hear this today. I think I raised my hand just to thank you, because I've been wrestling with my very enthusiasms and thinking that I have to work harder to move forward on all the things, or something's wrong. And I think that just kind of is melting or turning into a puff of smoke right now. And that's really good. I thought I should offer a small group coaching, and the closer I got to it, it just felt like, Karen, you described it so well. And then I thought, okay, retail's starting to open a little bit. I'm going to do a lemonade stand this weekend, and I'm going to sell my little bits of art, and I'm like so excited, and it's flowing, and I'm just like having a ball. And then I take breaks to worry about why I'm not feeling this.
Nice.
Take breaks to worry.
Group coaching thing.
I'm writing that down, Sue. Gotta take breaks to remember to worry.
The worry breaks. You need that.
So anyway, Dominic, thank you.
Yes, and Sue, I love your examples. You can see there in the two contrasting experiences, where there's the one is this thought, and then you can feel the effort in, oh yeah, damn, I gotta put a group coaching. I probably should. I mean, isn't that the way you're supposed to do this stuff?
Maybe I'll get it right this time, but I probably won't, because I failed so consistently, and just
yeah. So one of those feels like that. You can feel an effort to it. You can feel a kind of thing in it. And then meanwhile, this other thing, you're going to put some art out. and notice the difference is like, you can't stop yourself. It would be like, so you can't stop yourself. It's like if we called you to say, hey, we want to talk to you about the group coaching because we're going to help you to promote blah, blah, blah. You'd like, okay, I'll call you back. I'm just like trying to get some stuff together right now.
Yeah.
And notice, here we are, we're saying, I should be in action, and I don't know why I'm not taking action. But meanwhile, you can't stop yourself from taking action in the one realm and not in the other, right? So, but we feel guilty about it because here's the problem is the place where I feel like I want to take action, the problem is that feels good, that feels natural, and it's not supposed to. Like, I'm supposed to do serious things in life. So if all I did was feel good all the time and do all these things, like what is that going to lead to, right? I mean, unless I'm suffering and unless I really put my some real hard work, because you can't get a reward unless you work really hard, right? So we so confused, right? About.
There's one more piece of this for me. I also take breaks to theorize, right? And I'm wondering, I am seeing that I've had a lot of practice trying to sell small group coaching for years, and having the experiences I've had and the successes and failures that I've had. And I have a lot of stuff around it. And I've been an artist for a year. I've sold art for the last 6 months, maybe. And I don't have as much on it. I have almost nothing on it. And then I think, well, then I should be able to turn my attention back to my coaching practice and melt all that shit by magic, by waving a wand. And then I get tired again.
Excellent. Excellent distinctions in there, because what you're distinguishing is the absence of resistance in the art piece. Because the thing is, to your point, you just haven't had enough time to build up all the bullshit things.
It just came to me. I haven't had as much practice. That's great.
Yeah. You need a lot more practice to know why that should be hard, right? But you haven't had enough time, right? And by the way, don't we say this to people all the time? It's like, it's so naive. Wait till they get into this business. They'll see how hard it is. Like, so naive. They just haven't had the exposure. When they grow up, then they'll see. It actually takes a lot of work. It's like, because you've had so much time to build in that sort of resistant thinking, but you haven't had the time in art. So you haven't had any time.
Resistance is much softer and permeable around this.
Right.
It doesn't not lure me. I don't believe it, but I really think I believe all that other shit.
Right. So you are called by desire, right? You are called by desire. That is what gets you in action, right? And when I say desire, the desire is yours. There is there's a thing I could explain about how that desire, but there is some desire in art, something you want, something that so fulfills you. and the course of your life is kind of what's clarified that, and that thing calls you, right, through some expression. But again, you don't have enough resistance to actually make that hard. So you just like put a stand out front and do a garage sale of art and who knows what. It's like you don't know that that's all wrong. You shouldn't do that. So you're just doing it. Right? So it's easy. There's no resistance. On the other side, you've had so much time to understand the right way to do these things and the wrong way. And it's not easy to do it. Each of them takes some time, like all of that. So that other piece, the desire in that is filtering through so much thinking, which is resistance.
Comparing my insides to other people's outsides and making, no, Dominic, totally,
Yeah. So, but by the way, here's the cool thing too. As you are one person. Newsflash. So we are one human being. We're energy more than anything. We're pretty much only energy. But so at any moment, I am of a particular vibration. Right? And when you are doing the art, when you're lost and when you're setting up this whole thing, the thing is the one human being that is you is vibrating in a state of high alignment with all that you are. So in fact, that being in that place is having an impact when you go back to your coaching business. It's not the same Sue that goes back to the coaching business. And so this is the other part of the other value and benefit that happens as a result. Now, Abraham will say that you leave every subject is where you last left it. So in other words, when I go back to my coaching business, I'm going to go pick the thing up and it's kind of like a bundle of stuff and beliefs in it. However, here you are coming now from a real state of alignment, inspiration, feeling of joy and ease. And now you pick up that coaching business. The chance of insight, of new idea, of a different way of seeing that is at a whole other level. Then just work harder on it. Just work harder on it. Go back to it.
Dominic, what came to me when you described that was I'll pick it up with lighter hands.
Yeah. Nice.
Lovely.
Write that one down.
Thanks, Sue. That was rich.
Thank
Thanks, Dominic. I'm just gonna read out Antra's question, and then Bria will get to you after Antra. But Antra said, "What about all the stuff that feels neutral creation? Can you expand on that? What do you mean, sister?"
Well, I can see when something looks hard that I'm, maybe don't want to do it, or that and I can see, like, for example, in creating my business, it really hasn't been hard. Now, there have been moments when there's something that I think I should be doing that I kind of procrastinate on, and then I just am like, oh, screw it, I'm not going to do that. Like, it doesn't feel like a weight. It's just, I'm not doing that because it's not fun. But on the other hand, I don't know that I would say that creating my business all the time is fun. More like it feels very neutral. Like it's going, it's not amazingly successful yet, but it's not in the gutter. Even if it was, I kind of am like, well, let's try something new. So I feel very neutral. And if I go outside of my business around creating, like I'm in this COVID lockdown, I've been painting rocks with, cool quotes on them and then leaving them on the path where I walk. Now, it's kind of cool because I'm painting and I don't really think about it a lot, but and it's not hard, but it's not like I'm joyful either. Like, I'm just kind of neutral. Like, it's something to do. My head seems kind of clear when I do it. I notice the rocks are gone when I go back to that place I walk, so somebody's picking them up. But like, I'm not jumping up and down, high-fiving myself or the world. So like, I just like,
Maybe you're just incapable of experiencing joy.
I don't think it's that either, but it just feels like there's so much neutral. Like, I just don't feel like I have much on anything. Is that a thing? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, what you're not doing is not putting up a lot of resistance on anything. So that's not happening, right? So in other words, you're fairly easy about that. And
Yeah.
there is something about creating in a way that is easy, right? Now, but there's a paying attention to your own sense of satisfaction with it. Because in other words, there's nothing wrong with, oh, I got a business and it's working and it meets my needs and does what I want. And so could be a way to build that which is easy, right? Compared to someone who uses a lot of drama to do it.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which it's been that way, but like.
Yeah. Now, for you, is there anything for you that's wrong with that or missing in that? Like,
No, but it looks like, when you read Abraham Hicks or when I listen to you, it looks to me like I'm missing joy. Like, wait, I'm not on that bus. I mean, it's not bad to be on the neutral bus, but maybe I want to hop on this other one.
well, the calling, yeah. So nothing you need to do to sort of discover, like
Well, hang on, Dominic. I know, Andra. I'm going to call bullshit on that. I was with you for your 50th birthday weekend, and I could tell you there was a lot of joy going on.
It's fair enough. Like, it's not that I don't feel it. It's not that I don't feel it. But that's, I don't know. I would say for me, there's more neutrality than there is joy. Not that there isn't joy, but there's more neutrality, which isn't a bad thing. Like, I guess I'm not complaining. I'm just curious what that is.
Okay. Well, yeah, and it's interesting because he said, "Oh, on the birthday weekend there was a lot of joy." So, so there's. Is it okay to be in that, and is it okay to be in that a lot?
Yeah, of course it is.
Okay.
Like, give me more. Sure, I'll take it. That's why I feel like I'm kind of missing out on something here.
No, I think.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I'm just jumping in here with you, Dominic, because neutral most of the time. I mean, like most of the time it's the ease. I mean, what I'm hearing is, and what I'm feeling and what I see in my own life, it's more of the ease of something versus the effort. Doesn't always mean joy. But then there's also things for me, like the preparation, the thinking about the creation of the 50th birthday weekend. It was like the 6 weeks leading up to it and all the planning and whatever and fun and that, effervescence. But whether it's a feeling of joy, and I don't mean to get caught up in some semantics, whether it's a joyful feeling or a neutral feeling, the difference for me is ease versus effort, resistance versus non-resistance.
So basically, then I'm like maybe confusing neutrality with joy and vice versa.
Yeah, I think I think me too. In a summary, yeah, me too.
Yeah. Well, and there's, so when you focus on something, that will expand, right? So if you look at this in terms of what's really happening here, we are this infinite, eternal being, right? So who you really are is joy, love, peace, bliss, right? That's that state. And you're that for eternity. Well, so here you are. Now you said, I heard 50th birthday. So, okay. So you have 50, 60 years left in this particular expression of that infinite being that you are. And so then the more, I guess part of it is that what joy look like is, wow, I'm alive. It's like actually nothing big, right? It's just like the wow, I'm alive, right? That in itself, and the feeling of appreciation, Abraham talks about the feeling of appreciation, like the feeling of where I live and what it's like and how great the day is today and all of that. As I get into a particular vibration, that vibration becomes more and more and more. So when you think about a feeling that is a greater bliss or joy or sense of love, it may start small in an appreciation of something that you then allow to expand. But there is a, yeah, so there's a bit of like a focusing on something and allowing it to grow.
Yeah.
Appreciation ball. Little ball of appreciation. You pack it.
Well, and I love how you said that maybe, well, I love just the conversation only because maybe like my definition of joy and neutrality, like I said, to me, it feels super nuanced or super defining, like joy is this and neutrality is this. But, you know, what you're saying is, you know, maybe my neutrality is joy. Maybe it's more encapsulated and small, but maybe it doesn't have to be so.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah. You're seeing it as, yeah. Oh.
Your brain speaks total fuckery unless you turn your soul on.
Is that a Karen quote?
No, this was a gift. Spiritual AF as F cards.
Yeah.
99 inspirational cards for people who effing need some inspiration. This is my favorite one. 'Tis I know and ask be true.
Oh, cool.
And they give
like
little things behind them. Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Ancho. Bree.
Yeah, Bria is on?
Yeah.
Okay. So, hi, Dominic.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you? So I had actually privately messaged you about this, but I'm going to bring it up now.
Yeah.
So sometimes in life, I've had the experience, even when I was a kid, where there'd be things I want or visions of myself or fantasies or whatever. And then what I actually have in real life or what I'm experiencing is so far, like we're talking gap. It's not 9 centimeters. It's like, you know, a million miles. And I remember watching a movie once, and the whole movie was about this guy, or maybe it was a TV show, I don't know, but he had like fantasies about himself and his life, but then his real life was like so completely far away from those fantasies, right? And I have that experience in life sometimes, not all the time, but I do have it where, and ever since I was a kid, I remember having that experience. Like I'd have these amazing fantasies, and I would actually feel, I think, that kind of alignment feeling in my fantasies, you know. That's why I like to fantasize a lot. I was a real fantasizer as a child. But then my reality seemed so far from my fantasy, or so far from what I'm really wanting. And I still have that experience sometimes where there's just this huge gap. It's not like a little gap, it's like enormous. So how do you bring that to each other? So the gap, you know, bring that away, you know, together, rather than having this enormous gap, you know.
Yeah.
That's, yes.
So yeah, that's really good, because the stuff, the fantasy and feeling good is really interesting, because that is like especially when it's not conjured. Conjured means I'm making it up, right? Like, hang on, let me think about, I want a better life. I'm going to envision my life, and I got to picture the home I'm going to live in and picture the, right? So that's me conjuring it. You can feel the work in that, right?
Right.
Versus, call it like daydream, the fantasy part, which the difference in it is it's received.
Okay.
It is yeah, it's, I hope that word explains it, but it's like I receive it like it's a vision of something.
Okay.
And so that, as opposed to a conjured thought, a vision of it is actually, again, with feeling that out a little bit, but that's more like coming from, it's almost communication from who you really are.
Okay. Okay.
So that's from who you really are. Who you really are and what is really known is that who you are is abundant, and who you are is joyful, and who you are is like, so that, and then there's the fantasy shows, the vision comes to you of what that would be like, and you'd be living your life free and living in a certain way, participating with people in a certain way, like that. So you are getting this, Sid Banks said that from the formless to the form is first, the missing link, he said, is thought. So you go from formless, the spiritual manifests into form, manifests into the material first via thought. So for you, Bria, that is the beginning of manifestation.
Okay.
Receiving of thought like that. Now, thought has to grow, and it has to be allowed to grow. This is kind of where we are with our free will and stuff, right? So something comes in, but it comes in, let's call it like a seed. It's a seed of thought that shows up. It's an early manifestation. If we nurture it a little, don't stomp on it, it can grow, because thought becomes more. It can become more with our attention to it. How do we stomp on it is the only way to stomp on it, or the other word would be, how do I block it, resist it? Because when it comes, if you think about it like a seed, it must grow. It must manifest. At a minimum, it is wanting to. This is why, for you, something like that would feel as desire. Because a spiritual, all that is you, is wanting to express something into the world through you. Another way to say it, it's like wants to use you, physical you, to express and experience this vision thought into the world, right? And so, which means you through words and actions and going, because it will use you and your perception to be able to make real this energy, this thing. So you're catching the early on part, right? Now, all desire must manifest. All desire must become. And unless we resist it and stop it. And how do we do that? Well, any thoughts against it, well, I know abundance, but really I've never had a lot of money and never will, and it's not easy, and I don't even, like any of these jobs, and like, so any of that thinking is blocking. It's blocking and stopping, because it's not allowing, right, that to come through. So that's one thing.
Can we just ignore the thoughts then? Like, if they're coming through and they're kind of negative, can we just say, never mind, I'm just going to keep...
Great question. See, the thoughts are an indicator of vibration that you are tuned to. See, you don't just get thoughts. You must be, for there to be a thought, I must be a vibrational match to the thought. So, what that calls, Yeah, and now the problem is I can't just change it using, positive thinking or something,
Yeah.
because now
Dominic, I have a great like specific
yeah,
example, like as a story, as metaphor for how
good.
this works for you. Like, because I was back in November, I really went down a rabbit hole with quantum physics and the teachings of Abraham and Joe Dispenza and Neville Goddard and Ernest Holmes, like all these people throughout history, even modern age, and throughout history, that were saying the same thing. I'm like, right, I'm gonna put the gas on this and really experiment with this and try. So one evening, Frank, my Frank was he was traveling or something like that. It was a Sunday, and all of a sudden I was practicing just having champagne taste about my mood. And it was really working. Like I had no resistance for like 3 days in a row, all these synchronicities starting happening. I'm like, whatever. And then all of a sudden my vibration dropped because I'm going to be alone this week and this is going to be hard and whatever, right? All of a sudden, and all these thoughts, these complaining thoughts in my head started happening. And I got evidence that my personal reality reflects my current vibration and personality. So all of a sudden, complaining thoughts, and then my daughter comes out of the house and goes, "Mom, why'd you use that picture of us for our Christmas cards? I told you I didn't like that." Went complaining. And then I'm like, holy shit, this is because I was so paying attention to everything. And then I go in the house, I have another daughter complaining at me, and I'm like, right, oh, I got to get this vibration up again. So thinking that I can't ignore the thoughts. Even ignoring them is resisting them. In order to ignore them, you have to put your attention on them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I tried ignoring them, started feeling worse, and then I'm like, right, okay, I had to drive my daughter somewhere. I'm going to put on my inspirational playlist. I call it Renegades, and it's got all these things. I'm going to write that, and that'll get my vibration up. It was like friction in my nervous system, listening to those songs that are supposed to, it was like making it worse. And then I remembered the teachings of Abraham and everybody else. You can't change your vibration. What you're looking for is a feeling of relief. And the relief comes from not trying to change it. So what we tend to do when our vibration is lower and our snow globe gets shaken up, the snow globe of our emotions and our thoughts is, oh, I got to get it settled. I got to, where it's designed to settle on its own. And when you stop trying to ignore or trying to change, it comes with a feeling of relief. And for me personally, on the positive, negative, emotional, and thinking spectrum, the relief feeling is in the middle, the fulcrum point, when I start going back in the other direction. So I can be relieved and angry, or relieved and in resistance, that I don't have to stop, or relieved and frustrated. I'm frustrated, but that's right, I don't have to do anything about it. It gets better on its own. And when I saw that in the car with the songs that I'm trying to change my thing, and I remembered, and the relief all of a sudden, and it was like magic. Oh, what a beautiful sunset. And it was just like so obvious, as obvious to me as my daughter coming out and complaining, that was reflecting the complaining in my head. As soon as I found relief and my shoulders kind of dropped, I was like, oh, the sunset. And it can happen. It happens that quick. Dominic.
So very cool, because you can see how the reality that comes is matching, and with the distraction or whatever it is that happened that shifted for you, then the noticing or perceiving different things in the same reality, right? So the sunset, for example, that you spoke to, for what Bria. The Abraham thing about what you just said is that Abraham is saying, if you cannot push against anything. So in other words, if what I'm noticing is scarcity or my thoughts of doubt, I cannot push against them. I cannot attack them or try to change them, because that's just the more attention to them. But you can think about anything else. Do you see?
Abraham doesn't say don't do anything. I've never gotten that from there.
No, but but you can think about anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see, like, in other words, I can pet my dog, or I can play with a child. So you can think about anything else. What our trouble is we think we've got to do something about this problem. But remember with Sue, how I said, you're one person, you're one human being, one vibration. That means if you are walking on the beach or looking at a sunset, you are one vibration. As that vibration changes to one of an appreciation or awe, that means you are in your life in that vibration. So that what you begin to perceive, so you're affecting the subject by getting off the subject. Sometimes the highest impact you can have on a subject is to get off the subject.
Wow, well stated. That's clear.
Yeah, because they often say soothe yourself back into happiness. You know, they'll say, like, they say actually do a lot of things, but it's like maybe what you're saying, not fight with the problem, but they do say do stuff to bring yourself over to another place. Or,
well, if you are sensitive to that feeling of effort or resistance, then what's good about that is you won't stay at it, right? Because you will feel how off that is.
mm-hmm.
But they are recently talking about a lot of processes and things like that they would talk about, like focus wheels and different things that they would talk about are really effort. They're like some effort to try to change something, and it's a little bit unnecessary, and the effort is working against you, because your problem is that you remain fixated on what's wrong and you're attempting to turn it around. And it shouldn't be that hard, because if you can simply, with distraction, as Karen's example with a snow globe, it shouldn't be that hard, because its own nature is to go back to a settled state.
Okay.
Yeah. By the way, sometimes too, what you're trying to do in the manifesting that daydream and vision, right,
Mm-hmm.
is to what degree are you looking for the evidence of it already? So in other words, if I think about, in my coaching business, before it was anything big, I would get all happy and ecstatic about, oh my God, I got this client. Now, it was a tiny client. It wasn't very big. The money wasn't huge. But the fact that I'm so excited about this, right? So that just the energy of the spotlight or attention on the slightest evidence of what I want, what you focus on becomes more, right?
Mm.
So to what degree is there evidence?
The attraction journal. I think that's a really good idea. I think I'm going to do that. I like that idea.
Bria, that was a great question. Clarified a lot of points, I think. And I was going to say, since we're at the end of, I can't believe we're already at 95 minutes, but I would say maybe this week, for the rest of this week, or take 7 days. And I'm going to try that. I'm going to do a little attraction journal and really focus on the feeling and following the inspiration and the things that make you, giddy and delighted, and just take a week and just, go with the feeling and see what happens, just as a fun experiment. And Dominic, thank you so much for coming on. This is such a rich call. I think, I know based on comments and faces that everybody got a lot out of it. I really appreciate you. If people want to work with you or have a conversation about more of this with you, is it possible for them to get in touch with you, and how would they do that?
So if you're on Facebook, friend me there, right? So Dominic Scaffidi. And then my company name is hrpossibilities.com is the website. Email is dominic@hrpossibilities.com. So, and if you email too, that you can reach out. And there's lots of stuff like different podcast interviews I've done and things like that. I'm happy to send that to you. And so where I've talked about this stuff in different ways. So you might find all of that useful. I'm trying to collect it all somewhere on a website. So
yeah, Me
Kinda
too.
like
It
point
says it
you-
feels like effort. If anybody is interested in this community and then being on more calls, again, we do it every Tuesday at every other Tuesday at 11. Well, okay, it's every Tuesday now. Just email me at hello@KarenDiMarco.com and I'll send you the bump about that. Typically that's just like a small intimate group, but every once in a while when we get a rock star like Dominic on, I just open it up so more people can know about the community and things like that. So yeah, thank you all for coming. Thanks again, Dominic. It was awesome.
Awesome.
And hope to talk to you again soon. Everybody, and I'm gonna post this recording. I'm gonna upload it to YouTube, and I'll send it to you so you can share it with whoever you want.
Thank you. Nice meeting everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Bye.
Dominic. Bye-bye.
Bye.